This is part one of my 4 parts tutorial series on web engineering or AI assisted engineering of a SaaS agentic app. And by agentic app, I mean an app that can be accessed from inside the agent, or today it means an MCP app. Look it up if you never heard of it. MCP app is a standard that extends MCP protocol to include the UI part, the React widget that can run right inside ChatGPT. This video is intended for people who call themselves vibe coders or no coders or even pro coders. This is useful if you want to build a SaaS, that's very important, SaaS agentic app. I have it running inside your own agent or inside ChatGPT, Claude, etc., etc. This is my second iteration of this tutorial. First, I built it for in November, December of 25, when there was a ChatGPT app protocol in place inside ChatGPT. And then in January, they added support for MCP app. This is the real standard that is supported by Anthropic, by OpenAI, and by every other AI host today. So we are re-recording this with a focus on the MCP app as being the foundational block. The project that we're going to build is called ChatVault. It's an app that can run inside ChatGPT or Claude or any other host. It allows the user to save fragments of chats, sort of when the revelation comes, the new information is learned, to preserve the context, preserve the chat in your own personal knowledge base. You can do it from inside those chat agents or hosts, or you can just manually copy and paste your AI conversation inside the widget, and it will preserve it in a vector database as a set of AI embeddings. And then those chats will be accessible by future AI agents as part of their context, so that you can continue the conversation a year later, or you can build on that knowledge, whatever. So this is the reference app. I built it first during the first iteration of the tutorial in the end of 25, and then in January rebuilt it for MCP app standard, and then submitted it to both OpenAI and Anthropic app directory. So it's sitting there for 2 months now, waiting for review, but it is a real app. As part of the tutorial, we're building just the core, basic, bare bone version of it, but then it can be extended. But most importantly, you will learn how to do it in those smaller chunks. Like part one will deal with the widget only, MCP server that only concerns itself with creating the React widget. And part two will deal with the backend MCP tools server that has all the actual backend functions dealing with a vector database. And in part one, we will just use a dummy hard-coded data for those tools. So there will be tools in part one, but they will be hard-coded. And part three, we will put everything together in a single application to show you how to assemble from multiple MCP servers, which could include Zapier and A10 MCP servers that would provide access to some integrations, strong integrations like Gmail, for example. And part four, we will go to real production with that. We'll create the continuous integration, continuous deployment process, regression testing, and we will make sure that the solution is secure, scalable, and maintainable. Very important, because most of the stuff that vibe coders produce is just one-off stuff. It's great to impress everyone with a demo, with a release of an app, but it's, 6 months later, you will try to tweak one column in a table, and the whole app just self-destructs. So they say, oh, we will just rebuild everything from scratch. Yeah, but the purpose here is to impose an engineering approach, engineering discipline, and constrain the vibe techniques with some sort of engineering mindset and process in place. Anyway, we will start now. As a prerequisite, we need to have a GitHub account fully set up. That means setting SSH keys. Look it up. ChatGPT explains it all, tells you what to do. You will need Git installed locally. You need Cursor installed locally. You may need ngrok free account if you want to expose your local server and be accessible through ChatGPT. We will not be actually doing it as part of this tutorial today, but it could be useful because we will be deploying to Vercel right away. You will need a free Vercel account. That's where we'll put things into production on the cloud. Maybe something else I'm missing. We will get there when we will get there. There is this repository, phoenixr/chatvault tutorial. I'll put a link in the comments, in the first comment under the video. That is our starting point. And this is the starter repository. All it has is README and a bunch of prompts. So we will start by cloning it. And by the way, I will be compressing this video in terms of waiting time. So when I wait for AI to do something for 10 minutes, I may compress it to 10 seconds just so that it goes smoothly. But first of all, I will note the actual clock that I'm looking at, my time, so that you have a sense of how long it takes in real world. But also, I will not skip any steps. So I may compress the waiting time, but then each prompt and each response will be shown. We are copying this HTTP, no, not HTTP, SSH URI, and we're cloning. I created the directory ChatVault workspace where I will clone this repo. And I have previous versions that I did while preparing this. You can ignore those. So we will have ChatVault now tutorial, and it has prompts and a README. So we have prompts for part 1, which we will do today, part 2, which is the backend server. Part 3 doesn't really have any prompts because it's not about cursor work. It's not about vibe coding. It's about using the third-party platform to set up SaaS. Part 4 prompts. Also, I keep here a version of the old part 1 from ChatGPT app standard for continuity. If somebody did the tutorial back then, you can compare the changes in part 1 for MCP App standard. There are 2 prompt files. One is about common generic scaffolding, creating a generic MCP app project, and ChatVault prompts is specific to ChatVault app that we're building, where common is things that you will probably need for any MCP app you're creating. So you can reuse this as is, or you can modify ChatVault prompts for your needs. That's where we will start. I'm now talking to AI. This is Cursor, and this is Composer 2 that I just upgraded to yesterday, and I'm very impressed so far. So let's proceed. We have 9 minutes on the clock. We are implementing the ChatVault tutorial. We cloned a start repo and are looking at common and we need this guy. Starting with prompt 1, planning on it. This is important. This is my bell and suspenders routine. Basically, I'm switching the agent into plan mode, but I'm also explicitly saying planning only. I want the agent to produce the plan and only then implement. Even if I'm not reading the plan fully or at all, it forces the AI to do it in two steps, to think about it, plan it, and then execute, which is very important. Otherwise, at least it used to jump into implementation like people who call themselves coders. Um, just let's start coding and see what happens. Let's see what it does. So, okay, what's prompt one, you might ask. So first of all, this file has the prerequisites and it has the engineering principles laid out for AI, like verify, don't guess, design for observability, graceful degradation, give us errors instead of just dying, um, and which SDKs to use. So you use SDK for MCP protocol, and you use the extension X apps for MCP app protocol. But what's prompt one? Prompt one is just basically saying we just clone this, and we want to push it. We want to detach it from the remote, the source that we got it from, and create our own repo and push it into it. So let's create our own repo. I started doing this here in my own personal account. It's a free GitHub account. Everything here I'm using is free, I believe, except for you might want to have a basic version to Cursor, $20, and ChatGPT Plus. We're creating Chat Vault repo, and that's it. We created an empty repo. It has this URL that we will tell AI about. I just created an empty repo so that it will update its plan to use this new repo to push into it. And let add one more thing. Now let's go with the build. I would never allow list rm command, but in this particular case, it just wants to delete .git directory, which is its metadata, git metadata for the original repo. Git init, git add. Now it inits the new repo, connects it to the new remote origin, and pushes it in there. So let's see, we have our own Git widget in Cursor that we can monitor Git state. So if everything went okay, we should see this repository now in our new freshly created personal repository, and we can see all the prompts and everything. Something I want to ask AI to do is, please, I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I don't want to turn into, I don't want even to say what into. Please do the commit and push after each step automatically. Okay, going back to common. Move on to prompt 2, planning only. So prompt 2, scaffold, Vercel, MCP app project. So basically initialize. We used to use the start kits, start repos for that kind of thing, but with AI, you don't need that. You can just tell it to scaffold it. You need a prompt instead. So it created a plan. It will be Vercel. That's why it's important, because it will create the Vercel.json file for hosting. And it will create, basically, it's about creating an MCP server, right, with a bunch of tools. And as it supports MCP app extension to the protocol, it has tools list like every other MCP server, but it also has it has resources list that shows all the um, resources like HTML templates, and it has resources read that can load the actual template. So what we're doing is we basically have two artifacts here. We have the server itself deployed um, as on Vercel, eventually as a bunch of serverless functions. Look it up. And we have this bundle of HTML, and we want to have it in one file, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript that we're loading in response to resources read, and then ChatGPT would cache it and then invoke it on as needed basis. So let's see what it wants to do. Sounds good. It'll create dev, build, result, build scripts. Go ahead. It is using White for bundling, for building this HTML, JS, and CSS bundle. It created result JSON, like I said, for Vercel hosting. Okay, it's waiting. PNPN TSC. So it will now, it created a bunch of files, as you can see here. The basic structure, this is totally generic, nothing to do with Chatwell. So we're creating a generic, first generic MCP app structure, and we committed it and pushed it. So if we look in our Git repository now, you'll see that there is now Chatwell Part1 directory, and it has all those files we just created, the basic scaffolding. Now, move on to part 3. No, prompt 3. Plan only. And switch to plan. Meanwhile, we'll look at prompt 3. So implement the HTTP streaming HTTP MCP server. That's the core. It is what ChatGPT will call, what Claude will call, or your own agent will call the MCP server that returns a bunch of tools eventually. But in this generic form, we will just return the test widget or test tool so that we can test it. And but we'll be able to see, we will put it in production. We'll test it with ChatGPT and see that everything is placed. Although it will be, and we will verify that we can develop the React widget locally, and then do smoke test. That will be the first half of today's session. We are hitting 20 minutes real time. can see here what files it modifies, and at the end it will produce the commit message, commit, and push. Very nice. It tries to run the test, but it has the old server running here. So checks passed, no TypeScript errors, build runs, and local smoke test. Um, cool. Includes test widget. So if you run tools list command, it includes test widget. Okay. So implement. Now build the MCP App widget as a single file HTML bundle. Move on. Move. Okay. To prompt 4 plan only. So prompt 4 says that we want now to actually build a basic generic app widget. And we want it to be in a single file because OpenAI examples have it as a separate server serving the assets like CSS files and JS files and whatever, which we don't need for this scope of an application. We want a single bundle. HTML, CSS, JS, just one file, build it, and then return it in response to resources read command, and then ChatGPT will cache it and then invoke it quickly when needed. This is good for performance, but it's bad for the development experience, DevX. Um, you will have to delete the app and re-register the app every time there is a change in order to see new stuff in your template. So we will mostly develop the template locally. We will run the React, build the React component and run it and make changes locally until we're happy using test data, fake data, so that we don't have to go through this process of deploying and re-registering in ChatGPT to see any changes. And it's done. So clean build. It ran the test. It committed and pushed. So I'm just running along quickly because okay, build some empty widget. If there is a problem, we'll encounter it later. We will go back. Prompt 5, wire MCP app UI resources and test tool. So now wire the needed protocol because it follows specific protocol. There has to be a specific shape of metadata and everything. So that's what it will do. Move on to prompt 5, plan only. Obviously, you can read it in detail and then analyze the plan in detail. We need to switch to plan though. So it says to use the widget resource URI of a certain format that so that we can recognize it later and set some rules. It says what meta has to include. And it's driven by OpenAI requirements, but I know that Claude uses the same. The original chatbot application that I submitted works equally well in ChatGPT or Claude desktop or any other AI host. So make sure that you have the right SDK versions. Return a certain shape of an object. Use Zod. That's a shape verifier library. Make sure that it's like, you can think of it as like US mail address, right? Street 1, Street 2, town, state, zip code. So that's the shape of the mail address. And when we're submitting the mail address to some API, we want to verify that it's the right shape, that it has at least street 1, but maybe street 2, that's optional, and that it has the state, the town, and the zip code, all mandatory. So Zod library can verify that shape um, at runtime. It can verify at compile time, TypeScript time, that the shape will be correct at runtime, to be precise about it. So here's what was implemented for prompt 5, and it was committed and pushed. Basically, it created the MCP protocol support. Now, let's do prompt 6. Prompt 6, plan only. And meanwhile, we'll take a look at it. So it's about deploying it on Vercel and um, add more logging and Jest. Jest is the main test framework that we'll be using for continuous integration and continuous deployment. So I will just start doing it. Meanwhile, no, let's deploy this on Vercel ourselves. So let's go to Vercel, and this is a free hobby account that I have. I also have paid accounts, but I'm using a free account here, just like you might want. And I'm creating a new project, and I'm selecting. I already connected my Git hub account, so I'm selecting this new repository that we just created, and we will need to use the root, right? Yeah, ChatVault Part1, and it recognized automatically that's a white project, not just a generic node project. And we deploy, right? Why I'm doing it before running the next prompt, I want to see the address, the domain that Vercel assigns to us, because we're not using custom domains here. We're using Vercel assigned application domains. So we will need it to feedback. Make sure that it's using the right domain here, although I'm pretty sure it will use um, the um, the Vercel environment variable. Let's finish with prompt 6, because I need to go back and review the build error. Let's first of all, let's not confuse AI with two things at the same time. And now we're connected. Vercel is connected directly to our repo. So every time we push in our repo, because we're using main branch, we're not. That's something I will show you in part 4, how to use feature branches and PRs, pull requests, correctly in production. But for now, we're just pushing into main, and it's automatically picked up by Vercel, and it starts build. So now we will see how that works. So it installs Jest dependencies and then runs the tests. It passes the test. Pretty cool. We already have Jest. So we can theoretically create unit tests, which I will not do here. I'll leave it up to you. But we will do integration tests, which are more important in this scenario, distributed scenario, running end to end. So it already committed and pushed, so we should expect to see the deployments. Should be a new deployment just now pushed into production, and the build error. So this is, now we can copy it. Vercel build error, and let it deal with it. So it's modifying the deployment configuration Vercel.json to make sure that the bundle is built inside the assets directory. And then it might need to include that assets directory. We'll see. So one more time, deployments. So it's building now automatically. See how quick it is? We're, by the way, hitting a 30-minute mark on our real-time clock. And it actually worked this time, right? So we have the Vercel deployment, and we have this domain Vercel deployed on, I'm just reporting back so that it may actually hit it with live smoke tests. I would suspect that there is an MCP endpoint. Cool. It's really not functional, the get method of HTTP on MCP protocol, other than smoke test, like to see that everything's fine. You need to post into MCP for any significant or any meaningful action. Okay, so it looks good. Now, how do we develop the widget React locally? React component, I meant, but this thing is understand. So we will need to go switch to this, run pnpn install. Oh, pnpn install and pnpn widget dev. So now we're running the development. So look, this address gives us 404. And it adds the root HTML file that will redirect to the correct file, so that we don't have to remember the specific file name. And let's see. So we have a generic widget. It doesn't do much, but it has the debug panel. And the reason for that is that MCP App widget runs inside the iframe and it uses what's called App Bridge protocol to call other tools in MCP server. But it runs inside iframe, so we cannot see its console output using the usual developer tools in the browser. So what we do is we created our own debug panel that will capture this console output. So we're done basically with part one. Here we have the local development for the widget, and we deployed into production. Well, no, let's do one more thing. Let's go to now ChatGPT. Cool, right? So we need to go to settings, apps, and advanced settings. They buried it really well, and turn on the developer mode. Now we can create the app. Generic MCP app for tutorial. Now we need to get the URL. This guy basically. This is where our MCP server lives, right? So we need to paste it here, and we do not use any authorization yet. We will deal with that in part 3, actually. when we wrap the business operations SaaS layer around our um, MCP server, and that will give us also the proper authentication support. But for now, we will just, hold our fingers crossed, and we are registering our blank app, and it worked first time. Hey, how amazing is that? So it is actually created. We can connect it to the chat right here and say what is the test widget. Show the test widget, or let's not be so technical. Show the test widget. And it worked. So you see the same widget now runs inside, and it's in production. It's on Vercel Cloud. It's production grade stuff. Highly available and scalable. Vercel will spin those babies on as needed basis, and then send you the bill, which is what we want. Great. This is basically the end of the shared common part of scaffolding. So we're continuing now with chat vault specific prompts. Let's close all others. And this file also has its own set of engineering principles that are specific to chat vault now. Responsive user experience, user clicks, something changes, traceability, simplicity. Anyway, moving on to chat vault prompts. Prompt 7, plan only. We are at about 37-minute, almost 38-minute mark in real time. And we switch to plan mode. So prompt 7. Now wire MCP App server for chat vault. Now there's specification of what a chat is. It has title, timestamp, and has a bunch of terms, an array of terms. Each of them consists of prompt and response. It has a method, browse my saved chat, which is a real method that returns the widget ID, that loads the widget basically. And it has a bunch of fake tools. Load my chats is returning the hard-coded test chats. And save chat and search my chats are really dummies. Don't do anything. Why am I using this my chats? Search my chats, browse my chats, because early on in November when I did this first time, ChatGPT, when I said search chats, it would say, you cannot do that, Dave. Browse my chats, browse save chats. You can't do that because it assumed I'm like going outside in the world and searching everyone's chat. So I had to say my chat, and then said, oh, it's your chat, then it's fine. It's purely the name. It was deriving this information from the name. What's the word implied versus whatever. So let's go and build us prompt 7. And in part 2, we'll create the actual MCP server with those backend functions. Load chats, load my chats, save chat, search my chats. That will actually provide the backend functionality, the vector database, the embeddings, all the good stuff. And then we'll combine them into one, cherry picking that browse my say chats is coming from this MCP server, and load my chats is coming from this MCP server. I will show you, you'll be amazed. And this allows us to keep individual components and separate servers. That's easy on AI. It is not confused by complex architecture. It's easy on a web engineer. He or she is not confused by complex architecture. And it allows us to blend in other MCP servers, like from Zapier or NA10 or Make, with integrations. So we can then go to Google Docs or go to Gmail, whatever, and operate those integrations from inside our single combined tools or a widget. From inside that widget, you can go to Gmail if you want to through NA10 Gmail integration. So it is adding all those uh, Chatwall specific files. See, it creates the React components. It's using Tailwind for styling, I hope. Supposed to. Okay, and we're done. Prompt 7. But it didn't commit or push. Have you committed and pushed to Git? Oh yeah, it had. Okay, so it was a delay inside cursor. Fine. So we are within prompt 7. We're done with prompt 7. Should we see any changes? Yes, we should, and we are seeing the changes. So now you see how cool is this? It's actually implemented that behavior with fake or can't um, load my chats function, and we have this um, minimum widget. So let's go to prompt 8. Prompt 8, plan only, and switch to plan, don't forget. Meanwhile, let's read it. So basically, implement Chatwall MCP app widget behavior. Implement the widget UI. Well, that's what we just did, haven't we? But it adds extra debugging. Yeah, so it says already a lot of this was done, but there are some gaps. So this meta that is being returned has to be a very specific, its shape has to be very specific. Then we want also to debug to log stuff and portal style polish theme. So we should handle dark light theme. Okay, sounds good. We are at a 44-minute mark in our live session. So introduce some widget default user ID. If user ID is not passed, but user ID is actually an interesting thing because you will see in part 3, we will be injecting the user ID and we'll be injecting a bunch of other parameters that I'm sort of not talking about here too much. There is anon parameter that will be set to true if it's an anonymous user, and so that we can do whatever we want inside the widget with that information. If we know that this is a free, basically preview, we may want to put a message that you only have, let's say, 5 chats that you're allowed to save, and it will start automatically delete the oldest one. And click here if you want to go and manage your account on a SaaS platform. This is all coming in part 3. I just want to let you know that um, it's coming. So we have now prompt 8 implemented, right? It should affect this a little bit, make it nicer. Maybe you can now copy everything. Um, I'm not trying to create to dazzle you with UI. This is something you can do on your own. You can do your own app, and it's all local development, so it's very fast. And I went through that because I have a polished version of ChatVault, commercially commercial grade app, and I will give you a link to that as well, so you can see the final result of this after a couple more weeks of polish has been added to it. Not full time. I mean, you're playing with it and you have an idea, you change something. Anyway, so what do we have left? Prompt 9. So we want end-to-end validation, which is what we are already started doing. So we can now, first of all, we want to make sure that, and you can see the log that all those MCP calls were happening when we were using ChatGPT. But let's see that we are deploying. So there should be, oh no, deployments. You see, every time we push something, it created a new deployment, and you can actually go. Vercel is great this way. You can go and run each of those deployments separate from each other. So it all keeps the same URI here. So what we can do is we will have to do, as I said, to delete the app to refresh the template. So we have to delete this version of the app, and then we can create a new one with the same chat vault demo, whatever, that's a long name. And now we need that URL, no auth, and it's always very scary, but it works every time. And then we will start with new chat, connect the app, and then say now we can use the method that we implemented, browse my saved chats. No longer we need to test a widget, whatever, and it should bring up the same widget. And you see then it separately loads, so the widget is invoked, it's already inside the cache. When we're registering, it pulls the widget using resources read call, puts it in the cache. So now it took it from the cache, and then it ran it, and it starts with a call to load my chats, another MCP tool. And then, so that this data is not hard-coded in HTML, it's coming from load my chats method. So when we will wire the correct load my chats, that is actually going into the database, then the same widget will work with real data. This is very cool, actually, even for a professional like So, and it has this debug panel to see what actually, you see what I was talking about? That uh, uh, let's paste it. I want to the AI to see that. This is the debug panel inside ChatGPT. I'm confused by the Skybridge present, app bridge not present. There should be both, and we are. Skybridge is the ChatGPT app protocol, and AppBridge is the MCP App protocol. There should be both, and we are using AppBridge, right? And we can see here that load my chats was cold. Uh, okay, so it tries to gaslight me. But when we are calling load my chats, are we using window app bridge load my chats or whatever it's called tool? Oh, okay. So I was confused and it cleared my confusion. Okay, it works correctly. It's using the SDK, and the SDK does direct posting, which is fine. It certainly works. So, prompt 9, plan only. And switch to plan mode. We're almost done. We see it working. We just want to add more logging. And then prompt 10 is a minor tweak to make sure that it picks up the display mode, the dark light. So mostly in place, but so there are a couple of gaps that it will fill. Um, so it says we're not implementing playwright testing, which is the really going into ChatGPT and clicking and testing it. I will leave it to you to play with, which is also very cool. So let's do, oh, it's still running. Very cool. So it's updating README as well. Is it? No. It's updating those plans. It's checking the TypeScript, build, and run the tests. In part 3, we'll make all those tests part of the push itself. That's the CI part of the CI/CD. CD already implemented, going to Vercel automatically. Continuous deployment every time we push. Okay, prompt 10, plan only, and we are ready to wrap. And that's just minor tweaks. Display mode and cleaning up layout. So I want to request display mode and then to behave accordingly to display mode. Display mode could be inline, full screen, or picture in picture. Actually, ChatGPT only supports inline or full screen. Theoretically, it will allow in the future to have it running. Actually, for the friends and family, they allow that, but not for people like ourselves. Am I happy about it? No. The San Francisco-based people are taking care of their bodies first. And who is surprised? Not me. We are 58 minutes. We're wrapping up. So it'll be a 1 hour real-time session. We built the whole MCP App widget and it runs inside ChatGPT in production. I think it's cool. Right, it runs TypeScript checks, build, and tests. Okay, so it is pushing it. Wow. All of a sudden, it doesn't want to commit and push. Uh, yeah, that happens. Add prompt 10. We're using VS Code widget, get widget. Anyway, that should have triggered the build, and it had. And meanwhile, we can start disconnecting this, removing the old widget, apps, delete. Are we done building? Yep. So create app, chat vault demo, URL, no oath, boom, boom. Now we're at a 1 hour mark in real time. We are Down here, we start new chat, connect the widget, and say browse my saved chats. And here we are. We have loaded those chats with all the improvements, with the turns, and it's all working. This concludes our part 1 of the tutorial. Stay tuned for part 2 coming up soon. And I will also have a blog entry, maybe explaining some of this stuff, available as well. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Through endless pines the cold winds weave, where silver streams and tall birch breathe. The bison roam, the eagle soar, the twilight drums in war once roared. The waters whispered soft and wide, a guiding hand the spirit's tide. No border drawn, no strangers claim, the land and sky both spoke the same. Minnesota, northern star, quiet water, that's what you are. Winter swishing on ice and snow, summer's fishing nice and slow. Through silent lakes and misty morn came paddles swift, the canoes worn, with sable pelts and scarlet thread. They bartered well, their ledgers read. They traced the path the rivers take, through wooded wilds and glimmering lakes, with muskets primed and fleur-de-lis high. They claimed the land but not the sky. Minnesota, northern star, quiet water, that's what you are. Winter swishing on ice and snow, summer's fishing nice and slow.